All right, man.
All right. Hey, episode 16.
Episode 16.
I'm keeping track here. Crack them.
Let's do it.
Crack them if you got them.
All right, so I'm going to start it off. I got a Sun Crusher Summer Ale. It's from Revolution Brewing. It's a wheat ale. It's 5.3%. Yeah, this is just what I thought it was going to be too. It's a light, easy drinking, a little bit of citrus, good for a summer barbecue. Drink a bunch of these. What are you sipping on?
I don't like it. I don't like what
You
I
don't
just
like it.
drank.
You don't like it.
I have a hard kombucha from a brewery out here in Chula Vista called Nova Easy Kombucha. It's a cactus fruit agave jalapeno 6% hard kombucha, and it kind of burns the back of my throat while I'm drinking it.
Yikes.
Um,
Are those pretty hit or miss out there? Hard kombuchas?
uh,
Or do you just not like
I don't
booch?
know.
I mean,
I feel
you've
like
had
there's
booch before.
I've had booches before, but I also feel that there's beers as well that do like jalapeno and spices in beverages, and to me, that's not something that I enjoy. So I try to stay away from it. This was actually left over from a hangout we had this weekend, so I thought I'd crack it open and give it a try. But cactus fruit, agave, and jalapeno is not my thing.
And what's the
Um,
brewery?
Nova Easy
Nova.
Kombucha out here in Chula Vista, but for the most part, I enjoy the hard kombuchas. I mean, it's like kind of like an alternative to like one of the if you're like a seltzer drinker. I enjoy those much more. It's kind of like a mix between a beer and that, in my opinion. But yeah, it's not too bad. But this one's not that great. I've had other flavors from this one, but this one's just a little different for me.
That's a lot different than what I'm drinking. Revolution, I feel like is one that a lot of people know around here. It's a big name Chicago brewery. There's two
Right?
locations. They got a brew pub. It's like more of like a restaurant in Logan Square.
It
And
did.
then they got the bigger
Wasn't the movie
location.
Drinking Buddies based on Revolution?
It was
Did you watch
filmed
that one?
there. Yeah, that was at the bigger location up in Avondale. That's the brewery.
Mm.
And they got a tap room. They do the tours there. They got a big event space. They host parties and you do weddings and stuff there. But yeah, they Drinking Buddies was filmed partially there. So I'm partial to Revolution. I like it a lot.
I
There's
was
a
going to say, are you like
spot
the
close to
local
me.
Revolution Brewery historian for the neighborhood? Got a phone number for you if you want to host an event there. Just let me know. Drop my name off. You can get 20%.
No free ads.
No free ads, of course. I got a question for you.
Okay.
I saw this scroll across my Twitter feed today, and I just got to ask if you had the means, would you buy yourself, like Drake has, a $400,000 mattress?
No, absolutely not. There's no mattress that's
four
worth
hundred
$400,000.
thousand dollars for his mattress.
Did you read into it at all? Like what
I
was what did this consist of? Why was this $400,000? Was this
and one of the funniest lines or two is like, there's a huge difference between like a $10,000 bed and like $100,000 bed, so it's definitely worth it. And like, who the fuck are these people buying a $10,000 or $100,000 bed? But it's made of like horsehair, and I think I might have seen somewhere like stingray skin or something like this. And it's supposed to last from 50 to 100 years. But also, why do you need a bed to last for 100 years? I
yeah.
don't think you're going to last that long. Um, but the reasoning is that like sleep is one of the most important things in your life, blah, 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 blah. It adds to your health and all that thing. So why not spend the most money you can on the
Mhm.
thing you spend that important time on? But $400,000.
So with all that said, would you
mattress.
spend the 400,000
If I had the means? So I
if you
looked
had the
up
means?
Drake's net worth is like 150 million.
Mm-hmm.
Would I buy a $400,000 mattress? I
Mm-hmm.
probably would do some dumb shit like that. Yeah, I probably would.
I feel like there's a lot of dumb shit you could spend $400,000 on. I don't know that a mattress is at the top of my
do
list.
you want like a lake, a summer house, across the Atlantic, or do you want a mattress
Absolutely.
made of horsehair?
That would be much higher on the list. I think, a boat, things like that, normal things, I
You can
think.
get a couple of those with 150.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
true.
was just like, I was like laughing at myself, like, what the hell? Why is this a thing? And also, like, solid business plan for the company to just start making $400,000 mattresses, and people are buying them too.
Jesus, yeah. Sell one of those to Drake and you just call it. That's all you can
All
do.
right. Yeah. Crazy, 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 crazy.
What else is crazy is the Cubs, man, up to number 9 in the power rankings.
It dipped a little bit, but yeah.
I mean, they've had a tough. I feel like the last couple of weeks it's been kind of a tough schedule too. They played the
This
Padres.
West Coast trip stuff for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this West Coast trip coming out here. The Giants are really good baseball team right now. But Patrick Wisdom's really been anchoring this club, I feel like. And this guy just kind of came out of nowhere. He's 29 years old. He's been on a bunch of teams before coming to the Cubs. And he was the NL Player of the Week last week.
Yeah.
I'm just like loving what I'm seeing out of this guy. So like here's an interesting stat. Wisdom's one of 3 players, along with Trevor Story back in 2016 and Aristides Aquino 2019 for the Reds, who have hit as many home runs, 7 home runs within their first 8 starts with the team.
Saw that. Trevor Story still up in the majors, great player. The other guy, I remember when he came up on the Reds, I think he's like back down in the minors. So
yeah, he's
maybe somewhere in between, somewhere in between those two.
For sure. So he's the second Cubs player to win the NL Player of the Week award this season. Who was the other?
This season, NL Player of the Week,
Right.
I would think Chris Bryant, but I'm gonna guess it might be like Nico Horner or something.
No, it's Chris Bryant. You should have went with your gut instinct.
Go with my gut. Okay.
Yeah.
The way you were asking me, I thought you were trying to pull my chain there a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Patrick Wisdom is like, I was at the game yesterday, and he like comes up, and there's a bunch of Cubs fans there. Like Cubs fans travel really well in San Diego, and he comes up to the plate, and like there's a dad behind me with his son, and he's like, I could hear him talking to his son, like, this guy's been, he just came up, he's like basically hitting a home run like every X amount of at bats, so we might see one tonight. Like, this guy is like in the Cubs dialogue now. Like, people are talking about him. I love that. P. Wizzy truth bombs. My wife yesterday was like, why don't you call them wisecracks as well?
Okay, that's not bad.
That's
not bad. I like the wisecracks. And like, as you just mentioned too, like that's part of my favorite thing about going to the game is those little subtle conversations that you hear from other people sitting around you that are explaining to somebody that maybe hasn't been following that much, and they're just going to a game because they want to have a good time, and they're like, oh, who's this person? And they, explain it to them, and then you get to kind of hear their thoughts on how somebody's been doing, or if they, really know what they're talking about or not, is kind of
or how wrong they are.
Kid, don't a lot of times how wrong they are.
BS.
For sure. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned you're at the game, man. Tell us all about Petco Park. I've never been there. I think there's a lot of Cubs fans probably haven't made their way out there. I saw you did the live stream for a little bit. That was cool to see that.
Yeah.
But I mean, ticket prices, things like, beer costs.
Yeah. Sure.
Walk us through it.
I get this question a lot, and I get it from people, that are out here as well. They're like, have you been to, like, cause I'm, I tell them how big of a sports fan I am. I tell them, I'm a big Cubs fan. And they're like, oh, have you been to the Padres game yet? Have you been to Petco Park? And it's very like, yes, I have. And it's usually followed by like, kind of like an underwhelming sell of like what that ballpark experience is. Because it's beautiful. It's an absolute like beautiful ballpark. If you've never been to like one of the historic parks, like a Wrigley or a Fenway, you would think this is one of the, one of the better stadiums in the league. You could see the ocean from the upper deck. It's downtown. It's in the city. And it's just really well maintained. They have like a center lawn area where they hold like summer concerts, and there's a stage, there's a sand pit, there's like 5-star restaurants, a wine bar. Like, there's so many things to do. There's a food court, but like the overall game experience in and of itself is a little different. I mean, you can go there and not see a minute of action on the field and probably have a great time, which is, to me, not the experience of going to a baseball game, to where like Wrigley, everybody is kind of, unless you're hammered, which a lot of people are at Wrigley, you're watching the game. And you're focused on the game, and everything's pretty close and on top of you. The restrooms, the concession stands, to where, at Petco, it's a little spread out. It's spacious. It's nice. It's clean. There's a variety of different type of food. Like, you can go there and get a steak dinner if you wanted to. So to me, I always like sell it as like, it's a great ballpark, but it's a mix between like an airport and a shopping mall with a baseball field like in the middle of it. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah. And you think that whole atmosphere that they kind of built there, leads, like, I was looking last night and it looked a little bit empty. It was their capacity, like capacity limit Was that
Yeah,
the
so they
reason, or
still
was it
have
just
limits.
because?
They still have
Okay.
limits on the capacity to where we were sitting. They like put a cloth on the whole row basically. So they were doing like every other row. Also, they
Okay.
just started doing like a vaccinated section as well. So if you're watching, you might have seen like a dense populated section. It's because they were vaccinated and they're selling them at like a more affordable price right now. But I mean, I haven't been to a game there yet to where like the crowd is really, really, really into it. I mean, they had a couple home runs yesterday against us where the crowd celebrated, but nothing that is like the deafening, crowd noise of ninth inning, 2 out, Craig Kimbrel's in there to close the game and Wrigley's just going nuts, right? Like it's
Hmm.
nothing like that. You got people there that again, it's like a business trip or people are there with their families and they're able to go to these restaurants, they're able to walk around and really the game sometimes is secondary, in
Okay.
my opinion.
Okay. I mean, was there any pre-game spots, post-game spots you'd recommend? I guess
So
bars or anything like that?
there are, and that's another disappointing thing as well. It's just not when you compare every like baseball experience to Wrigley. I mean, a lot of places are going to fall short, so you got to have that caveat. But there are a couple local bars around there. Our like big time downtown bar scene, Gas Lamp, is only like 2 blocks from there, so there's like a lot of cool bars you can go to there, especially afterwards as well. But like right around the ballpark, they do a cool job of like closing the streets around it because businesses are like right across the street. And there's a couple cool spots there. I can't think of the name, but a couple sports bars, a couple country bars. But nothing to really like draw you in as like a ballpark village vibe. It's more of like, why aren't there more? Why, like you would walk around and you'd be like, why isn't this like a huge kind of like ballpark village, restaurant, bars, apartment complex kind of deal?
Okay.
So it leaves you wondering a little bit.
Gotcha. What about like, we mentioned hot dogs and Wrigley
Mhm.
hot dogs and things like that. Is there like a special food that you'd recommend if you go to a Pods
I
game?
mean, they have like Din Tai Fan, which is like soup dumplings were there. Puesto, which is like a Mexican American restaurant chain, is there. Like I said, they have these like Barrio dogs, which Barrio Logan is a neighborhood here as well. They have all these like restaurants and other like businesses in San Diego that are represented there. The beer selection there is probably
That's
top
cool.
notch in any ballpark because of all the San Diego breweries. They're all represented there as well. So, I mean, they have such a huge variety. We kept getting whiffs of garlic fries, which reminded me of Dodger Stadium because I know it's a big thing at Dodger Stadium as well. You get tacos, um, churros. We saw people getting, I mean, just pretty much you imagine it. They got
I
it.
mean,
They,
that
they
sounds
have a food
great.
court,
Yeah.
they have a barbecue there. They have pizza there. They have a little literal food court where you can get like a salad bar and like a sandwich. It's crazy.
I mean, that all sounds great for sure. Unfortunately, Cubs lost, right? 9-4.
Yeah. Adbert did not. I mean, Adbert was like 50 pitches in the second inning, and just like first inning, he had bases loaded, no outs. And I was like, this is gonna be a long game. This isn't
Yeah.
good.
He was just not spotting fastball up at all. Only
Yeah,
pitch that he could throw was a slider. And
yeah,
once the Padres figured that out, they were just sitting on it. And especially when I was watching Manny Machado up there, he was just sitting. I think it was 3-0. He was just sitting dead on that slider and like
yeah.
knew it was coming. I could just tell that guy was locked in. Hit a homer later on in the game, but
Hmm.
by that point it was like midnight here, so I don't know how many Cubs fans were still tuned in.
Yeah.
I hate that about it too. Is they play so late
They're doing it again
here.
tonight.
Yeah, but no, it's cool that you went to the game, man. It's awesome. You should definitely continue to check out the Cubs games when you're out there. Sounds like a
Yeah,
cool
and I
cool
think they're
spot.
going full capacity here in like a week or two. So just missed it, but they'll have like full capacity, no limits here in a week or two, and hopefully can get to a couple more. But yeah, I don't think the Cubs are coming back, uh, but I'll definitely try to get to another game or two.
Cool. So what do you think about this Cubs City Edition jersey?
Uh,
The shitty
people
edition.
people are like, "Ah, I'm warming up to it, because they keep like releasing new images and like the players wearing it and like hype
Yeah.
videos of like the release of it. But I mean, the first time it leaked, I think everybody who saw it was just like, what? And of course, it leaked after the socks, which are sick. Like,
Hmm.
fuck the socks, but those
Saw a guy
jerseys are
wearing it today.
sick.
Yeah.
And you see the Cubs and you're just like, what are we doing? Like playing it safe, like right down the center, no edge, no design, really just kind of the bare basics. And I was definitely like, this sucks. And I also saw they were like for sale online for like $500 as well. Did you see that?
Wow. No, I didn't. That's crazy. I can't imagine anyone shelling that out. I do like the hats though. I just, that weird like Y logo with the Chicago flag doesn't make any sense to me.
Is that for the transit? Is that what that is?
I'm not sure. You know,
I think
I'm not really
I think
sure.
it's something to do with like the Chicago the CTA.
Okay.
I think the mug you got me with that has that same kind of like Y looking thing on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Something about it. It just doesn't have, like you said, that edge like the Southside jerseys have. Just look cool.
But you like it. Let me guess. You like it just because of like the Chicago colors, the star.
I love all that stuff. And yeah,
stuff.
for sure. I mean, you throw any of that stuff on any jersey, I'm going to love it. But I think, I think there's a lot to be left to be desired for this, city edition jersey. What about the
I saw
NBA
a couple
playoffs?
people online like give their own take on it and just like change the jerseys to like the scoreboard green. I'm like, that would have been pretty cool.
Yeah,
but
a lot of different things, a lot of different ways they could have went with that.
Yeah.
But so give us the quick rundown on the NBA playoffs before we get into our next guest.
All right, NBA playoffs. Here we go. Really, really happy that the Suns. I think I'm pulling for the Suns right now as my favorite team to root for. And I think like when we're talking, I had at the beginning of the playoffs, I had the Clippers as my click to pick, so they're still in play. But really cool to see the Suns bounce the Lakers and LeBron just cry about it and left like game 5 with like 4 minutes left in the clock or something like that. And I just love when people hate on LeBron. I jump right on in. I do not hesitate. And I'm a hater. It's well documented. So that was really satisfying for me to see that. A lot of chatter right now with Portland being eliminated. Denver eliminated them. So now it's Phoenix and Denver in that region. But everyone's like, where's Dame Lillard? What's going to happen there? Terry Stotts stepped down. So that's an interesting one. Dallas lost to the Clippers. Like I said, Clippers are still in it. So everyone's wondering in Dallas where Porzingis is going to end up because he looked like shit.
And he was complaining too, right? That he doesn't like being that second tier
he,
star.
He views himself as, the 2 stars on that team. And obviously he's just not that great anymore. He's had a couple of injuries. Mm-hmm. He's super, super weak and can't create his own shot really. He's a catch and shoot 7'3" guard, like he doesn't play in the post. Utah, that game's going on tonight. So Utah is playing the Clippers tonight. And we talked about how that Utah already took care of Memphis, but Brooklyn's absolutely destroying Milwaukee. That might be a sweep. Pretty crazy to see there without James Harden as well. He went down with a hamstring. So they're already up 2-0 and Milwaukee just looks like shit. I talked about how they would lack dynamic scoring in the playoffs, and that looks to be true. I also said that Eric Bledsoe was on the team, and I was completely wrong. My buddy Stukula pointed that out. He's a Bucks fan. It's Drew Holiday. Eric Bledsoe was on the team last year. Drew Holiday is supposed to be their new dynamic guard, but I just don't think they have enough like playmaking ability there. They keep trying to do the pick and roll with Giannis, and it's not working. So Boston lost. Danny Ainge stepped down. The Butler
that was
coach,
surprising.
I can't think of his name right now. What's his name? Brad Stevens. He got us. So a lot of people were like, "Is Brad Stevens gone?" Nope. They're just gonna promote him. Right? Head of basketball operations there. Mm-hmm. And then the last series that's being played right now.
That's the Hawks, right?
And it looks like Philly is beating Atlanta to tie that series up 1-1. And Atlanta's playing some really good ball. I think they're pretty scary. I don't think they're going to do anything past this round, but they'll make this a fun matchup to watch.
Yeah, and you mentioned it.
Was that quick enough?
That was pretty good. And you mentioned it in the pre-show. It's a good question whether the Trae Young for Luka Doncic trade was a good one and who won that trade. And I had said I think it was pretty fair for both teams. If you see where Atlanta's at, and you see where Dallas is at. I mean, if you were looking at player versus player, and I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Luka.
And you're correct in doing that.
Look at where Atlanta's at and how this has worked out for them. I think it's hard to say. Would they be better with Luka? Maybe, but they're doing pretty damn good with Trae. So it's tough to say that they lost that trade with how well they're playing.
Yeah, and Atlanta did a good job building around Trey's skill set, and really, really enjoying how Trey is like leaning into being a villain, and kind of just like telling crowds to like fuck off and give them like shush in the garden and everything like that. It's kind of cool. Like those are the things I'm wishing the Bulls had these type of players going into next year. Players with attitude, players that are going to like
Superstars.
not back down, superstars. Yeah, top 5 pick. Yeah, best player, best young point guard, shooting point guard in the league. Yeah, I wish the Bulls had that. Big Bulls news: they're scouting the EuroLeague MVP, so look out for that.
Keep an eye on that.
Mirotic 2.0.
Them and everybody else.
Yeah.
All right, so let's bring on a good friend of the podcast, a good friend, of ours. We lived with him in college, known him for over 10 years now. One of our good buddies, great friend of ours. He is a beer mule. His name's Gavin Fahey, also known as Pete Mike Heezer on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, he's just a good friend of mine, good friend of yours. I met Gavin and then introduced him to you, and we all became friends. We lived together. Gavin started to do some home brewing. Started around the same time I did. Got a lot more into it, I'd say, than I did. Picked up this beer mule hobby, I would say about a year or two ago, but we'll get more into that with him. Let's bring Gavin on. Gavin, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Avid listener. I think I listened to every episode.
Appreciate that.
We're episode 16. I don't know if you announced that at the beginning.
Episode 16.
Yeah, episode 16.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on,
listener,
dude.
First time caller.
Of course.
Also, congratulations, a new dad. Kind of new dad, but a new dad, right?
He's got the dad grass going too.
Yeah, grass. Yeah, I caught that Milorganite tidbit there. Yeah, I used that last year. It's good stuff.
Yeah, no free ads, but Milorganite is getting a lot of
Milorganite.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna need a Milorganite promo code next episode. Yeah. So okay. So I mentioned you're a beer mule. Is that the term that you would use? How would you describe what it is that you do?
Yeah, I would say a beer mule is the correct term. A lot of people call it a proxy. When you can't find, I think people are more familiar with the word proxy when you can't get something that's far away and you need someone there to pick it up. You have someone called a proxy. But in in the mule, I think the mule word comes from actually muling drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So, but with that being said, shipping beer is illegal. It's not accepted unless you have a license to do it. And there are companies out there that do it with a license. I'm obviously small time. Don't have my own company.
Yeah, and you're not doing any of that illegal stuff anyway, so we don't have to worry.
No, I'm not doing any of that illegal stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I want to say, that's how I would describe a mule, is someone who picks up something that someone isn't local to, and then send it out to them.
So how did you get started? Did you have somebody like a mentor or somebody that was doing it and kind of brought you along, or did you pretty much jump right on in? Do you find it on a forum? Tell us how you started.
Okay. So it's gonna be a long story. I'll try and make it short. But
it all started.
I want to say it started 20 end of 2020, December, and there was this new hype of beers called fruited sours, and they're still pretty popular these days. They're starting to die down because new stuff is coming out, and they were just blowing up, and places were selling out of them so quickly. And in the beer scene, beer is just limited all the time. Every release is limited, and so if you don't get it, people have FOMO. And so I was on Facebook one day. I was in a beer group, beer community that I follow called Brews and Dupes. And
how did you stumble upon that first? I guess, was it just searching for something new?
I got
Okay.
invited by someone I met at a beer share. He said, "Hey, you should join this group. It's like family. It feels like a family, like not family oriented, but just feels close knit. And that's what beer is all about." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Like I don't really partake in the dubs too much, but I'll definitely be all about the brews. And he invited me to that, and then that kind of opened my eyes to all the other breweries in the United States that were making this style of beer, the fruited sour. One in particular that I started going to and picking up or muling was in Indiana, called 450 North, and they were coming out with 13 different beers every 3 weeks. And just to put it in perspective, most breweries only come out with maybe 3, 4 beers in a week, on like a good week for breweries, because we're more focused on the quality of what they're putting out versus pushing out quantity. And I went there because I saw what people were making money off of it, being a proxy. Went there by myself. They had this big beer share on the Thursday night before the Friday release. Camped out in my car and probably drank like some of the best beer I've ever had underneath the tent with people I don't know, all night until like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And then at like 11 o'clock, they have the release. Went out on a limb and went home with 16 cases of beer and sold all of that beer in a matter of a week.
And then you're hooked.
I was hooked.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's a crazy
So,
story that you drove out there by yourself and spent the night with a bunch of people that you didn't even know and just drank beer with, had a good time with all these people and brought back a shitload of beer and sold it in a week. That's wild. That's crazy to me.
Were other people there mules, or is it kind of just like beer enthusiasts?
I would say most people that are there were there for the same thing. They're all muling beer. Most people that pick up the quantities that I was picking up that first time, we're doing the same thing. And initially I was only going to get one allotment. An allotment is like a limit that you're subject to. But then I kept on seeing the same people going back in and getting more. I was like, man, should I be doing this? Should I really take that risk? And the gambler in me was like, you know what? I'll try it out. And roll the dice. I think my wife, when I got home, I thought she was yeah, I thought she was gonna kill me.
Absolutely.
I remember getting home. There was snow on the ground. And I think at one point, like one of the cases that I brought into the house, I like slipped and fell on our front walkway, because there was just like case after case after case bringing in. But yeah, I was shocked. I couldn't believe that 16 cases. There's 24 cans in the case, so that's quick math.
A lot of beer.
Yeah, a lot of beer.
That's a lot of beer in my head.
Yeah. So.
Wow. So you got a beer you're sipping on here? You got any that you want to shout out to?
So I appreciate all the love that you've given the Instagram handle, and the way that Dan usually describes it is that there are these like crazy beers that people want to try out and get, and I'm kind of going to go with that story of these fruited sours. There's this brewery that's pretty popular that's kind of like taking 450's place, called RAR. And they're in Cambridge, Maryland. It's a town in Dorchester County. And they make this series called Out of Order. And they're fruited sours, but they started brewing this new style of beer. It's a fruited sour, but they use like an ice cream lactose base. So it comes out creamy. And so the beer that I'm gonna pop here in a moment is called Blue Milk, and it's a play off of The Mandalorian. Shout out Sean, our close friend. And I'll read off the description to you, because it doesn't really explain what it is, but it tells you what it tastes like. It says, made in collaboration with Brad at Coldstream Studios and Main Street Gallery. That's the artist behind this label. Blue Milk is made with milk from a bantha, which I don't know if you guys know what a bantha is, but bantha is it's an imaginary animal that looks like a ram but is the size of an elephant on The Mandalorian.
course.
and it tastes like a blue raspberry float. It pours blue. So I'm gonna pour it.
Okay.
For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you'll get to see exactly what it looks like.
And you said the brewery is RAR, as RAR?
RAR, yeah.
Yep.
RAR. So.
And it is blue because in Star Wars they have the blue milk as well.
I think, yeah.
Very cool.
Blue milk. So with
a little
any
behind the scenes, Pete Mikeezer pour here.
big,
Where's the light? Where's the light box?
big light box is it's back here somewhere. There it is, right next to the cat pooper. So with any craft brewery that you love, you need proper glassware. Okay. I think I sent you a glass, Slowick, for your favorite brewery.
I did see that.
And this is a raw glass. It has a couple of the former characters on it.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a stone dog or something. It's
yeah,
like the
stone dog basically. They took out of order. I'm trying to think of the artist that created this is based off like the old like slushies from like 7-Eleven. I think I forgot what exactly it was called, but all right. So this is how it looks.
Wow,
that's very blue.
Yeah, that is vibrant. I thought it was going to be like a darker blue, but that is not what I was expecting at all.
It's like teal.
Yeah, very bright.
Yeah. So
it looks almost like some kind of Mountain Dew or something like that. That looks.
So again, I'm sure you might post this, you might see it later, but again, just to give him a little plug, it's Pete Mikeezer. That is PeepMykeezer on Instagram, and take a look at everything he's got to offer there. And don't hit him up because he won't sell or mail you anything illegal. So
he's definitely not going to mail you anything, but he
definitely won't do that.
He does glassware as well, right, Gavin? You ship glassware.
I do. I ship glassware. Use lots of bubble wrap. You know, you learn a lot of tips of the tricks of the trade. Tricks of the trade, I would say, with packing along the way.
So I've noticed that too with the glassware. Is that becoming more of like a associated trend with the beer, to where now like not only is beer sought after, but now maybe like limited releases like glassware design of breweries to match the beer?
Yeah. Great question. Or statement, I should say. There are certain beers that require, I wouldn't say require, but the glassware is designed for. You know, high ABV alcohol by volume beers are going to require a smaller glass, because I think breweries can't serve you like a stein of a really high percentage stout. Otherwise, it would be, I'm pretty sure it's against the law if they do that. So, you know, in German culture, like when I think about the glass I sent you, you know, that's how they drink them. They drink them like a mug or a stein. So it depends on the ABV, I would say, for the most part. But glassware, some glassware, like this glass right here that I just used to pour that blue drink, people will wait like 10 hours in line for. It's $10, and they'll sell it for $60.
Damn.
Wow.
And it's just, you know, it's a regular old glass. There's nothing crazy about it. Just slap some you know, pictures of a dog on it, and
and call it a limited release, and it's
simple
tough to
supply
get
and command, you know.
And you can see this muling proxy thing in a lot of different markets. Shoes, you know, and anything that sells out immediately, people can do this with.
You're in the secondary market, man.
For sure. And so do you notice that you're shipping certain types of, or not shipping, I should say, certain types of beer to certain areas? Like, is there like, you know, Austin, Texas, are people wanting a certain kind of beer as opposed to people in Chicago or something like that?
Yeah.
Noticing any trends?
So pulling up my stats, because the website I use for making
stats?
labels. Yeah.
Yeah.
Website. Well, I don't have the stats on like what people, what styles, but my top 5 states, actually number 1 is Illinois. I send the most throughout Illinois. Then it's second is New York. California is third.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, Texas is 4th, and then Pennsylvania is 5th. And then I've sent about 15 shipments to Canada, because Canada, I mean, they're pretty limited when it comes to breweries compared to the ones we got here. But to your long answer, everyone go. I mean, just about everyone goes with the trends of what's popular at the time. Right now, it's a fruited seltzer. Every brewery this year is going to have a fruited seltzer. I think the regular seltzer was popular last year. Breweries were trying to make something that was low calorie, but now this year it's going to be the fruited seltzer. It tastes lighter. I think you had one the other day with me, Beerman, the lulls. There's still a good amount of calories in those. There's like, I want to say the one that I handed you is probably close to 250, 300 calories.
Don't tell me
There's
that.
still a lot of sugar and fruit for a
It's
puree.
terrible for you.
So like one is good, and you shouldn't really drink anymore in one sitting. But yeah, everyone goes with the
kombucha
trends.
I'm drinking.
I would
90
say
calories in the booch.
the one state that like sticks to a style all the time is going to be California with the West Coast. I know that's not your favorite, Dan, from previous episodes. It's not my favorite either. And I don't know, when I first got into craft beer, I was really into like the thing was like really bitter hoppy beers, and I'm not into those anymore. So West Coast is kind of off my radar. And then I think in the Midwest, people like lactose in their New England IPAs. So New England IPA is still very popular, but it's seeing if breweries will tell you that they use milk sugar or some type of lactose to get that creamy look to a beer. Because not everyone does, but I think some people are lactose intolerant and want to know that in their ingredients. So
that's really interesting to hear that, because from what I've seen from like the bigger breweries, like I'm talking, Budweiser and 312 even, like they're putting out seltzers now. And I feel like their seltzers that are coming out aren't these like fruity necessarily seltzers that you're talking about, like the Lulz, completely different. They're more like White Claw was,
I'm
a
confused.
couple of years ago.
Isn't that fruity though? Like, I don't know these Lulz
It's not
seltzers.
as
Like, what's the difference?
So, so the seltzers that he's referring to would be like, I feel like they're just calling it fruit, but it's artificial flavoring. Whereas the Lulz, which is I think Evan explained it last episode, is a sister company, a subsidiary of Phase 3. It's still like the same amount of fruit puree as a fruited sour, but the base initially is a seltzer, so it pours and tastes lighter, but there might still be like the same amount of fruit in it.
Is it clear? Is it clear? Like the
no,
it's
it's
like
like,
no.
Gotcha.
Right. It's like, the one I had was like a pink lemonade, and it was like a thick pink, tasted just like a pink lemonade did, but it was, alcoholic.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
But you see like, Budweiser's putting out seltzers. I feel like they're behind the game maybe then. And I'm seeing like 312 putting out a summer shandy type of beer now. I'm like, and hearing this from you that these fruit seltzers are going to be the big thing. Like, are these big breweries just behind the game, or do you think they usually wait until smaller breweries churn up the demand for this, and then they come in with their own version of it and try and scoop up the market?
I think that big breweries wait. They wait, and then they also buy out breweries so that they can call them their own. Goose Island is notorious for, AB Bev is notorious for buying out small breweries that they find successful and good for their top dollar. And so I think that they do it that way. And then I do think that they wait until, the originator, they find some way to get a recipe like theirs of a certain style, and then, make it on par with theirs, if not better. And they have the money to do that. So
that kind of brings me into my next question. We talked in the pre-show about this new documentary called Brewmance. And one of the things that they highlighted in this, this was an independent documentary about the soul of American craft beer through the lens of home brewing, is how they describe it. But it was a great documentary. And one of the things they touch on is they interview the guy that started Sam Adams. And, he was like, when I was first getting started, I went to these bigger breweries and I brought my beer, and they said, no, this is not what Americans want to drink right now. This is too hoppy. People want light beer. That's it. And then when he went and started his own company and this started to catch on, now they're interested in making a hoppier beer, right? So it reminded me of that for sure. You said you saw this documentary. Like, what were your thoughts on this? They talked to multiple people. They talked to the guy that started Sam Adams, Bell's, Sierra Nevada. They interviewed some hops farmers, went to some homebrewing association meetups, really did an in-depth dive on the craft beer world and the history of the craft beer movement, and then focused on 2 teams of homebrewers out of Long Beach who were scaling up and starting their own breweries. But what was your thoughts on the documentary?
I thought it was eye-opening. I think they said there were 7,000 breweries in the United States, and I almost paused it and I was just like, wow, 7,000. I know
Does
that
it seem like a
Illinois.
lot to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Considering
in 50
I think,
states, yeah, that's a lot, man.
I think Illinois, I might be way off, but I want to say Illinois is at like close to 200, if not a little over that.
Okay.
So here at 7,000, I think majority of them are coming from California, Colorado. I've heard that there are a ton of breweries in Asheville, North Carolina. I got to visit there. Yeah, it was really cool to see them. I think they talked about a brewery on that documentary that I was familiar with called Steam. And I don't know if you've had them before, but they used to create like really light stuff. It was cool to see how like all of them were, all those big names, Sierra Nevada, even I think Stone, the guy from Stone was in there. They were all influenced by him, and how he was able to create this big, massive brewery out of just an idea, and how he capitalized on it. So I found really interesting. I also liked how the 2 microbreweries that they were kind of detailing their story and their process of putting it all together was really interesting. One was like not very popular initially and had a hard time with the financial strain of putting a brewery together, which I think someone told me a long time ago that most breweries out of the get-go like take like 300,000 to get going, but I think it's a lot more than that. I think 300,000 is just like licensing, tanks, those things are expensive.
Yeah.
So I think that was really interesting. The 10 high,
10 mile.
10
miles, like
10
Mile River.
I almost really respected how their family bought into it. Their whole family it was a family run. They didn't even hire really many contractors to help them at all. There was just a better. I knew from the beginning that that was going to be a success because they took a different route with it. I really enjoyed it. I'm thankful that you dropped it my way. I had no idea it was even becoming a thing. Really enjoyed that watch.
And they focus on the Great American Beer Festival quite a bit as well. I mean, I think if you're going to be brewing and then potentially like it's like the Mecca for beer lovers, right? So my question is, when are we going? And like, what would be do you have like a most sought after brewery that you like, that might obviously be a little further away that you would love to go take a look at and drink their beer? Or like a brewer, maybe is that the thing? Are these like, collecting baseball cards, like the top brewers in the country?
I think there are definitely some brewers that I would want to meet. I would love to meet the very charismatic brewer from Dogfish. He's in almost every beer documentary, it seems. Like I don't know how he gets on them, but he's very talented. He's very out of the box with the beers he creates. And then one brewery that really has caught my eye as of late for haze is actually in California called Monkish. And I think what they do with hazies is some of the best in the United States. And I would love to meet that guy as well. I've never been to this festival, but I had the same thought when I was watching it. It's like, when are we going to this thing?
Right.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
And it was interesting following those two breweries, like sitting there in the anticipation of them. Are they going to win an award at this event that has thousands of entries for certain categories, and you're trying to get, gold, silver, bronze. Shout out Maplewood, got a bronze for the Charlatan. I stopped there today and picked up a Charlatan just because of that. But I loved following those two breweries because they were so different in the way that they approached it. And the one 10 Mile, like you said, was a father-son duo, and the father was dead set on not getting any, doing all being his own general contractor. And, the build of the whole brewery itself, I think, is something that people don't think about at all. They think, all right, I'm going to start this brewing company and we're going to make great beer, but you have to build an atmosphere in there, and you have to build like a brand and a business inside of it. And the way that they set it up was amazing, and they were successful, it seemed like, from the start. And they even said at the end that they had a second location now. And the other team was just a group of three friends. This seemed like kind of a ragtag team of guys who were like, this sounds like a great idea, let's put this together. I think in the end it probably worked out, and I think they're still in business.
Yeah, I looked up both of them. Both
did
like 4.7 out of 5 on Google. Both are highly regarded, highly rated. Yeah,
that's great. I mean, that one just seemed like they had a little bit more of a struggle to get going. Didn't do a lot of the stuff themselves. They hired some, team, it looks like, to put their brewery together and things like that. And the head brewer there seemed aloof at times. But I thought it was cool that one of them
they're not just
was
a
a
group of friends.
Was a
One guy
band
is
member,
a former band member
of Real Big Fish for almost 20 years. He was in the band Real Big Fish, touring with them, and had only quit maybe a couple years before that.
Right.
So that was pretty cool to see him and kind of hear his story as well. That was kind of a good like side story, I felt like, and all the Real Big Fish songs in there, because I was a Real Big Fish fan, still am a little bit, to listen to some of their jams too. But I thought that was really cool as well.
Yeah, and I watched it as well. I thought it was a fun documentary to follow the journeys of, two different companies starting up brewing, home brewers turning into an actual brick and mortar brewery. Very cool to see, and like how the inner workings of that whole world works, and how it's come so far since like the 80s, where these were just a few and far in between, and where like the whole world of beer is in the United States. And now we have someone like, Pete Mikey's or Gavin on the show, who like his whole entire secondary hobby besides like, work and life is the beer industry, which is nuts, right? Like that's so cool that this is so accessible now, and it's something that so many Americans are interested in. Yeah, I would recommend it. It's called Brewmance, right? Brewance, and I was able to watch it on Amazon Prime. No free ads.
No free ads for Amazon Prime. And actually, fuck Amazon. But
which completely brings us into our next subject.
The Bears.
No, but yeah, I mean, like we could talk more beer, but also we know you're an avid Chicago sports fan, just like us as well, right? We used to live with you. You're a former roommate. So just want to get some of your thoughts on like state of Chicago sports. First off, how many wins over under 8 for the Chicago Bears? 17 games next year, right?
17 games. Yep. How many games over under? I'm going with the over.
Okay. How many do you think they're going to win?
We're spitballing here.
Yeah. I'm going to go.
Answer. Come on.
10. I'm gonna go 10 and 7.
10 and 7.
Oh, 10. It would be they was one bye week, so 10 and 6, right?
10 and 6. And when does Justin Fields take over? What week?
Week 4. I say
I'm not
week
even gonna
week
question
4.
it. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I feel like that's right about when he's going to come in. I'm kind of on the same page with that. I guess if Dalton struggles in the first 2 games,
What if he doesn't?
Yeah.
What if he
Dalton's
doesn't?
really, really good?
I just can't see that happening.
Yeah. I think Andy Dalton will have one like really good game. But then he's gonna have a horrendous Andy Dalton game. He's gonna get hurt. I want to say he's probably. I mean,
Jesus,
I don't wish anyone to get hurt.
One of those kind of hurt. Yeah. One of those kind of hurt where like not really kind of things where it's like came out of the game just to give Justin. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it'll just be something small, and I think Justin Fields will, not to like pull a Tom Brady example, but he's going to step in and just lead the way.
Never look back.
Yeah, I think that's how it's going to go.
Like
would you guys be shocked if Dalton is our guy for 3/4 of the season?
I would be, yeah.
I don't know. I was a big Dalton fan before we did the trade up and drafting Justin Fields. I thought he was going to pull it together. Would I be shocked? Yeah, I would. I think I would be.
I think if he starts more than 5 games, I'll be shocked. They spent a lot to get up to get Justin Fields, and I think they saw the reaction from the fan base and from the media and everybody telling them that you nailed this draft, put these players in.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be quick to make that move when the time comes. So
true.
Yeah. So I'm on the same page. Game 4, I think, is right about in that range. I think maybe on the tail end of where I think that they're going to bring him in, maybe even game 3. So
I have another.
Go for it.
Because I know you coach football as well. You played football. You're a big football guy. Looking at the roster, looking at who was on it last year, looking at who's on it this year, who do you think is a candidate for like breakout star? And we have some really good players that weren't necessarily stars last year, right? So I'll say like maybe take Allen Robinson off the table, take like Khalil Mack, Keem Hicks, like the stalwart players. Who do you think is going to like have that leap into that star trajectory?
I'm going to go with Daniel Mooney.
Darnell Mooney?
Darnell Mooney, yeah. I think
Man.
Mooney, we saw like a sliver of what he's capable of doing last year, and I think it's only going to continue. Has Allen shown up to camp yet? Or is he still?
No, I heard he has not.
Okay.
So we'll
Bears
see.
camp
Neither is Aaron Rodgers though. So
yeah,
true.
All seriousness, did Bears camps the mandatory mini camp start? Was that like today?
It's got to be soon.
I don't know if it has even started yet. I don't think I've seen them doing anything like that yet. I like that you picked Mooney though.
Rookie.
I do like that
Yeah.
pick. How good do you think Montgomery can be? Because I think that would be my pick if I was thinking of like who is the Bear that is going to be, making that leap into stardom. I think Montgomery might be one of the top backs in the league this year.
I think he's already there. I mean, we saw what he did at the tail end of last season with a very mediocre line. Now I think we have a line that the pace is set up really nicely for us. We just kind of hope that those draft picks work out, and I think they will. From what I've read on them, I think he's going to have an extra 400 yards rushing off of his. Well, how much did he have last year?
I don't know. I'll take a look.
Let's see. Montgomery rushing totals. Last year, he had
Jesus, I can't type.
rushing yards.
David Montgomery.
1,500 yards total. Rushing, he had only 438. Is that right?
No.
Last year he had 1,070.
Yeah, I think he'll easily eclipse 1,000. I think he can get to like 1,400.
1,400 is quite a
with-
bit. That's
with-
like
with a
Todd
good
Gurley
line.
numbers. Yeah.
How good is
Todd,
washed up?
yeah, Todd Gurley's really washed up. He's gonna be like second fiddle to Swift on Detroit this year.
I don't even. Is he even on a team? Is he on Detroit?
He's on the Lions this year, yeah.
He's gonna be on your fantasy team, I can tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, is this the fantasy
Yeah.
Gurley's never
fantasy
hit
podcast now?
1,400 actually, so
No,
I
but you'll
am
have him.
mistaken.
Not the Bears, but other kind of NFL news and also fantasy just made me think of it real quick. Julio Jones to Tennessee. How big of an impact is that? Are they like legit
Huge.
Super Bowl contenders with Tannehill behind the helm there? Or is this going to cause drama? Is it going to kind of be like the story of Atlanta to where like, is he healthy? And when he is, get him the ball, but then you don't get him the red zone. Is it going to cause problems? Because I could see it going like everyone thinks Tennessee's now the superstar team. They got top receiver. I think it might cause more headaches than I think.
The only headache that there will be Julio if he complains, like, but he's not one to complain publicly.
He hasn't been
I
that
think
type of player, yeah.
No, not unless he's pre-recorded on a live television show. But
Yeah, was that
because
Shannon
there's
Sharp that
that.
just like called him?
yeah, that was
Crazy.
yeah, very illegal too. But I think AJ Brown was like wanted him to be there. He was like wearing his jersey when he went to Atlanta. I don't think he's gonna have any issues with AJ Brown because it's his role model. I think Derrick Henry is only gonna get better, which is hard to believe because now they'll be able to spread the field with AJ Brown going down the middle and then Julio going over the top, and then the holes are going to be huge.
You just need
I saw
Tannehill
some-
to make sure you could throw him the ball.
I think Tannehill is very capable of that, and then on top of that, Tannehill runs. He had a good amount of touchdowns rushing last year. For old, I mean, I don't know how old he is, but he's looking good even after that knee injury.
Yeah, I think he's kind of the forgotten person in this whole deal, is that, especially from like a fantasy perspective, don't you got to bump Tannehill up quite a bit, I would say, when he's got those two guys to throw to, and Derrick Henry
You're
to
just itching. You're just itching for the fantasy season right now.
itching for the
aren't you?
fantasy season. Yeah,
Trying not to give away your cards too much though, right? I think Tannehill will be all right.
yeah.
Yeah, Tannehill had 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions last year.
That's wild.
That's without Julio.
Yeah. That was with throwing to some tight ends, and Corey Davis had a huge year last year. Imagine replacing Corey Davis with Julio Jones. Like, that's unbelievable. So I think they'll be pretty damn good. Last thing I want to touch on with you, you mentioned you watched the Logan Paul Mayweather fight. What were
You
your
paid
thoughts on
for it?
that? No,
Did not
nobody
pay
pays
for it.
Nobody pays
No,
for that.
no one pays.
Some more
for
legal
it.
activity.
Not saying we
More
did any
legal
illegal
activity from Pete
activity.
Mike All right.
A buddy sent me a link. I won't say who that buddy was.
Legally.
Buddy of a buddy, legally.
Of course.
And in typical, anyone could have really written what the script was going to look like. Mayweather ran circles, but once he saw that Logan was getting tired, he started to engage with them. The big controversy that I've noticed in the last 2 days on social media, 2 days, is it looks like he knocked him out at one point, and then
Who knocked who out?
Mayweather knocked Logan Paul out.
Huh.
And Logan didn't go down in the mat. He like fell into Mayweather, and Mayweather I think they were both paid to do all 8 rounds. They would get more money if they went all 8 rounds. And so I think it's clear in the video, and you can look it up on Twitter anywhere right now. It's blowing up. The debate is whether or not Mayweather purposely held him up to keep him going. Like, hey, like, dude, we got paid for 8 rounds.
It's my payday.
Wake up.
Stand
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
He literally said today he's like the best legal robber.
Yeah, I saw that too.
in
Right.
boxing. So it's those brothers both of those brothers are making out like bandits with these boxing matches, but they're also making a mockery of the sport.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I think they're
unfortunate.
geniuses.
Marketing
Are they,
geniuses.
though?
I mean,
They're
the guy
marketing
walked out with like a Charizard hologram card as his necklace.
That
right?
was-
Like,
I
everything
find that
is
genius.
calculated.
Everything that it seems like everything they're
It's all
doing
calculated.
is calculated, right?
Yeah.
And the one brother's wearing Pokemon stuff, the other guy's wearing Mickey Mouse stuff. And they're making that
What are you
stuff
talking
cool
about?
now. But they have 20 million followers on Instagram. Logan does, I believe, and Jake has 13 or 14 million or something like that. That's absolutely absurd. So when you create that kind of following, what can you do with that? You turn to pay-per-views, and you get people to buy pay-per-views. And I think Logan Paul made 20 million on that fight. Mayweather made like 120 million, but $20 million to go in there for 8 rounds, whether he was knocked out or not. It does look like to me when I look at that he was knocked out, but he made it through the whole fight. So I
have yet to see it. What am I supposed to look up? Floyd Mayweather, Logan Paul knockout.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look it up right now and tell you what I think. We'll do it live.
I'm a big UFC guy, so the boxing, boxing is too expensive. It's like $80-$90 if you want to.
All right, here we go. Sorry. Let's see if he gets knocked out. Oh, yeah. Whoa. Okay. That right hook right to like his temple knocks him out.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Paul puts his like left arm over Floyd's right shoulder, and Floyd literally squats and puts him back standing.
Yeah.
Upright.
So if you'd watch the fight, you'd see a lot of that, a lot of clenching, especially after the 4th round. You could tell Paul was just gassed.
What are we doing? Did anybody here really think this was going to be an actual like boxing match of technique?
No, the thing was
is a spectacle. That's all it is.
Yeah, and so was Dennis Rodman and fucking Karl Malone doing WWE. But that's part of.
Of course, I watched.
That's part of pop culture, dude. People watch this shit just because to see if something crazy is gonna happen, And I think people went into this fight expecting Mayweather to knock him out. And I was talking to multiple people, and they said Mayweather's gonna knock him out. I said I think Paul's gonna go 8 rounds, just because he had 50 pounds on the guy. He's exponentially taller than the guy. I think he's just a bigger guy. I think he could take a few punches, and I think he could last 8 rounds, and that would be his moral victory. He looks like he made it through the 8 rounds, obviously, but it does look like he was knocked out there, and so it makes for a good bit of social media chatter. So I think that even plays more into their hand, because that's what they want, is people talking about this fight so that they can parlay it into another one. But I don't know if there's anyone bigger than Mayweather that they can fight. So I don't know. It's interesting.
So do we think the next fight is Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley, who is a multiple belt? Tyron Woodley is a UFC fighter. He's won multiple belts. He's kind of lost a lot lately, though. So he's kind of the same thing as Mayweather. He's kind of losing his luster, but he's
also 39, and Logan Paul. Logan Paul is 26. Mayweather's 44. This Woodley guy's 39. I think Jake Paul's like 21. And when you talk about combat sports, age is a huge factor. You lose so much in your 30s, and especially in your 40s. Woodley's about to be 40, and you're talking about him fighting somebody that's like half his age. I think
people are nuts.
Yeah, I think Jake Paul's got a huge advantage in that sense. Woodley's never boxed before, but he lines up these fights like this where it's a name that people have heard of and somebody that he can beat too. So I think the way he's doing it is a little bit more interesting to me than the way Logan Paul is doing it.
Whole thing's dumb to me. Don't care. Give me
you don't watch any fights though, period, anyways, so it doesn't really, your opinion doesn't really matter. Right? You're not watching any UFC fights.
Give me a title UFC where like these people are actually.
Did you watch the McGregor Mayweather fight?
No.
Did you watch McGregor against Cerrone?
No.
So you're not watching any of the big fights.
They're past their prime, they're money grabs, and there's no need to watch. I'm also not a boxing fan, but I do like watching UFC. I do think the title fights in UFC are much more of a draw than these spectacles of, past their prime, big name, celebrities and boxers trying to just get a payday. And that's always what it is. It's always this big buildup, and then it's always such a letdown. And then everyone's talking about it, and it's exactly what they wanted it to be. And it's all just a grab for your attention and your dollars and your space in your mind to just talk about it, to waste your time and energy on it. That's why I don't watch it. But
What was the last big
UFC I
fight
would
you watched? What was the last
UFC
big
I
fight you
watch.
watched?
Huh?
What was the last big fight you watched?
The last big fight?
Yeah.
The one that always stands out to me was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was one of the most entertaining ones. And I'm going to look like such a hypocrite on this, but it was the
That's why I asked it.
Brock Lesnar's like UFC fight where he like,
Yeah, that was like 15 years ago.
yeah, where he wins that one. And it was like, I thought it was super entertaining.
Mhm. It was.
Yeah.
Against like Frank Mir, I think.
Yeah.
I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to go home, drink Bud Light because Miller Lite doesn't want to sponsor me. It's like great post game. Love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's I've watched a bunch of
this
the
is-
Pacquiao ones too when Manny was trying like on his last couple legs there.
Mhm.
And I did see one of the later McGregor ones as well, to where he's just a shell of himself. But yeah, I don't know. Not my flavor, you know.
I mean, this is becoming a thing quickly. It seems like these are some of the biggest pay-per-views of all time. So it's definitely interesting. I mean, something that as much as I hate to say it, I'll probably be tuning into illegally, potentially.
Legally, please. This is a legal podcast.
Legal podcast.
Everything
Legal,
we do and talk
yeah,
about here is
everything's
legal.
legal here.
To the Jake Paul fight.
Exactly.
We'll see. Mostly because I hate these Paul brothers, but for some reason nobody can knock either of them out. I can't look away. Somebody knock one of them out so I can stop watching.
Yeah, I think
But,
that might be a draw as well too.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're looking this fight in particular. I wanted to see Mayweather again because he's such a great fighter, but he is just such a shell of himself. But I also just want to see one of these Paul kids get knocked out. But in any case, Gavin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your thoughts on the beer industry, how craft beer is changing over the last few years, and the beer mule industry and kind of how you got into that. Thanks so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. Love to have you back on.
Last question before you go.
Mhm.
Would you buy a $400,000 mattress?
I kind of had the same thought as you. If I had that money, I would make some dumb decisions.
There we go. There we go.
All right.
So, but thank you guys so much. You guys have made an awesome product in a very short amount of time, and there's a lot of people tuning in and listening. I'd be curious to hear your numbers outside of this podcast one day. But you guys are doing awesome, and keep it up.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. You want to give us your Insta handle one more time?
Yeah, it's at Peep My Keezer. Like peep into a hole. Peep My Keezer.
At Peep My Keezer. PeepMyKeezer. Peep My Keezer. Thanks a lot, Gavin. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Peace out.
Peace.